look at the second largest software company overall, not just commercial, but overall, is still SAP. So after Microsoft, SAP is the largest software company in the world. From a commercial standpoint, it is the largest. From an overall standpoint, it is the second largest. Very, very, very important. Somebody says, I'm glad it's not Apple. Have you heard of lean government or growing lean? As fat as Microsoft is, they are struggling. See how these days everybody is trying to look skinny but effective? Yeah. So just because you're big doesn't mean that you have a lot of cash. Okay, very well. Very well. So what is this SAP and how does it really help a business? How relevant is it? You see, from a BW standpoint, we know that we generate reports. But SAP is bigger than just reports development in BW or in SAP BI. So I wanted to take a look at how companies utilize SAP for their overall company and use, because they spend millions and millions of dollars. Some spend 200 million, some spend 300 million just for implementation. People like you and I go and sit down there happy, and we just get a piece of the puzzle, and we're still happy. The little bit we get out of that $300–400 million, we can do a whole lot with it, right? Okay. So I want us to take a look at a company, any company. Let's say that we own Walmart. Let's say we own Walmart. Or let's say we are Mercedes. We produce cars, as an example. Now, I use that in my teachings a lot, but that is not the only industry. There are several industries. There is the automobile industry, there is a retail industry where you're dealing with Home Depot and you're dealing with Walmart and so many other companies out there. They all use SAP. Okay. Now, so you and I are starting a business. We want to start producing vehicles, right? And we need to start a business. The very first thing that we need is money. We need capital. Don't we all need capital? And we need the structure of our company, right? Which is the organization, the structure of the company. All right. So from a capital standpoint, we don't have money. So we decide to go get money from the bank. Okay? This is fair, right? We decide to go get money from the bank. Very well. So the bank is outside of our territory. We don't control the bank, but the bank gives us money. But in this, our organization, we have a department that is responsible for what? The financials of the company, finance. Okay? So if this bank gives us the funds will ultimately go into our bank or into our coffers, and it will be controlled by the company, the finance department. It's a department. Okay? This department, they have people that work. They have people that work. Now, the people that work are employees. So you realize that there is a need for us to also have an HR department, because HR deals with what? Employees. So that is another department. Okay? That's another department. Now, the finance department, they control the money. Now, it's not just money that has been given to us from a bank, because when you borrow money, the idea is for you to be able to what? Generate that money back, isn't it? So that you can even make more money out of it. So what exactly are we doing with the money that we borrow? What are we doing with it? Every company that you work, if you are working in a company, you are going to have employees that are in one department or the other. Okay? So in our situation, we said that we are what? We are, let's say, we build custom cars. Custom cars company. Now, what is going to happen is, if this is what we really want to do, if this is what we are called to do, we want to make money, then we as a company will have to sit down and evaluate how we're going to make these cars. And obviously, when we have money from the finance company, from the finance department, we will have to buy what? Materials. Okay? So we have a material management department that we've set up. What is biomaterial? When you look at the production of a car, you see it's a big deal. There is a lot of parts that make up a car. It's very complex. Some of the parts we are not going to build from scratch. We are not going to design them from scratch. We are going to have suppliers, right? We will have suppliers that will give us some of those parts. Say, for example, we build custom cars, and we are called Custom Cars Company. But then we have suppliers from China that will give us the car seats, as an example. So they are going to make these car seats specifically for our company, right? Or they are going to also make the dashboards, or they're going to make certain parts of the engine. If we are not building the engine and we decide that, you know what, we are Custom Cars Company, but let's have Mercedes build us those engines. Or let's have Land Rover build us those engines. You often hear of people say, oh, yeah, this car has a Caterpillar engine in it. You know, this is a Dodge Ram, but, you know, the engines are built by another company, right? So then, if that is the case, this company becomes your supplier or your vendor. Okay? They supply you with the material that you need. They supply you with the material that you need. You guys are following me, right? So far there is no noise, so I haven't muted you, and I like that. They supply you with the material that you need. Very, very, very important. Very important. Okay, so the material management department thinks of the parts that is going to be needed for our garage or for our plant, right? We have a plant where there are employees over there, okay, where they do what? They are responsible for the actual building of the vehicles. And then there is also production planning, where the planning of what we are going to be building takes place. So we can decide to have, let's say, one plant in Houston. The Houston plant builds our S model. There is another plant in Dallas that also builds our C model. Our C class, our S class are built in different plants because we have different vehicles that we are building, right? So this material management department is a whole little company department on its own, that what they do is different from what, for example, somebody who is in HR does. So when you are in HR, what are some of the things that you worry about? If you have worked in HR, what do you do? Anybody? You are responsible for salaries, isn't it?
Salaries, hiring.
Okay. Benefits. What else? Anything else? Training.
Yeah, training.
Training.
Setting policies, right? Don't go to the ladies' restroom and be a policy. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. All right, so well, what else? What else do we have? What else do we have? Firing. No, I don't think it's the HR department that fires people. Is it a HR department? Your manager from your department can fire you, isn't it? Yes. And you know, they spend a lot of money in on policies. I'm not even trying to be funny, you know. They spend a lot of money there because they don't want lawsuits. You know, don't put a mirror somewhere or don't do anything, you know, like that. In fact, there are some companies that don't even allow people to, you know, girls to talk to guys or have a relationship even in the company. It's just all liability issues. But they allow guys, and you know, in this country, in this part of the world, anything happens. All right, so development. So training and development, we can put it that way, training and development. We have policies. There are so many things that happens from an HR standpoint, right? So many things, right? So as far as material management is concerned, what are we responsible for? You are always going to be busy trying to figure out what is coming from your vendors, what you are buying, being able to track the goods that you received, right? The goods receipts, the quantities that have come in, those that are outstanding, when it's coming in, how it's going out. You know, recently when the tsunami happened in Japan, for a while, Toyotas were you know, there was shortage of some type of Toyota vehicles. I remember going to the dealership with looking for a hybrid Highlander, and it was very, very difficult to find because the incident that happened over there stalled all the specific timings of some of these supplies were supposed to have touched down over here in North America. So these things are very critical. They attract. So you see, this department, they need a software that is specifically built around their business for them to be able to run their business. And HR needs a software that they will be able to, well, you're a new employee. Now let's create an employee ID. You have your Social Security, you have your 401k set up, your pay grade, your salaries, your benefits, all of that stuff. So they need a different type of software to use. Okay. Now, I think Vera started talking about, some aspects that is really, really good. When it comes to finance, right? The finance department, what is finance department responsible for? Who is the head of the finance department in your company? The CFO. What is FC?
Financial controllers.
The financial, also it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
This is the CFO. So
Yeah.
let me digress a little bit and then do this and see if, again, I am not an expert in what I'm going to be doing right now. So the experts should help me out over here, right? We are all learning. So here I can say this is a CEO, all right? And underneath the CEO has people underneath him that are responsible for some very, very important roles, right? So they are all under the CEO. They all have the C title, right? So, but over here, you have the CFO, right? And then over here, you have, somebody give me something, the CIO, right? And then over here, what else? COO. Have you heard of COO? I actually found out that COOs make some serious money. I couldn't believe it when I heard or when I found out that some CEOs make a whole lot more money than the CEO. Maybe we should Google it sometime. This is not a part of what we are talking about. So let me put that in, a different color so that we can appreciate that from a different standpoint. Who is a CI? Yeah, they really are the brains of the company because the operating officer is the one that actually does the whole, So the CFO here is responsible for, so let's say that we have, and guys, I need you guys to, come in if you want to put in something over here. But basically what happens is at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year, all the department heads bring their budget. Okay, you bring your budget. This is what we want to do. I need a few more employees in my department to help with blah blah blah, right? So when all these are set, right, they actually send their budgets, and it ultimately ends up at where? The CFO's desk. So you actually plan for the next year, and the overall company plans, but then it is planned in what we call the bottom-up aggregation. The bottom-up aggregation is where the individuals, plan, and then it rolls up all the way to the company level, right? So that the company says that, well, due to this planning that came all the way from bottom, from the various departments all the way up. The CEO realizes that, wow, our budget for this year is, let's say, $500 million. Okay? That's the bottom-up approach. Again, this is not, BW. I'm teaching you something about planning. But it's called the bottom-up approach. Now, if the company or the heads set up and they're like, you know what, we have 500 million to spend, there has to be a way to do what? Distribute that 500 million. It means that you had 500 million and it's going to do what? Trickle down, right? So in that case, we call that the top-down distribution. 500 is going down, right? 500 is going down. But when you have, like, we need 200,000 here, we need 1 million here, we need 400,000 here, we need 20 million here, and you add all of them from the bottom, it aggregates and goes all the way up until it reaches that 500 million, and that is how you realize that 500 million. So if it comes from the bottom, from the planning standpoint, and it aggregates and goes up, then we call that bottom up, right? Aggregation. But if there is a number that is set up there for the business to meet, this is all we have, so let us do what? Distribute it to the bottom. We call that the top-down distribution. So that is by the way. But you see, so when all these departments come in and they bring their brains and they bring, well, I need to hire 20 people. And sometimes you hear of a hire freeze or hiring freeze, or a particular manager says that I don't have the budget or I don't have the money anymore. The same company, some people are able to hire whilst others are not, because the funds that has been approved and set may have been what? Exhausted. So they don't have any more budget to employ, because they are all responsible for their departments, right? Okay, so if this CFO is responsible for the finance department, from the budget standpoint, he also has people that are underneath him, which are the department heads, okay? And you have the CIO that is basically responsible. He also has his budget, Chief Information Officer. So his budget is oftentimes, the big one. Hey, we need to implement SAP. How much is it going to cost? It's going to cost $800 million over a span of 3-4 years. We need to implement business objects, right? This is where a lot of money comes from when you and I go out there to go and work on the CIO budget. And then it comes down to IT and infrastructure, It is very, very, very important that you understand some of these, basic concepts and see how really companies work. So far, what we've done is really not SAP. It's just how businesses work. You are all only interested in going to buy your cars and going to buy food, and you don't take a step back to see, how do these guys run these huge organizations? You have Walmart all over the place. How can one person own this, or 5 people own this, and they're able to manage it, and it's so efficient? Without an enterprise resource planning platform, you cannot do it. So you see why it is critical for them. All right, so let's move up. So from the material management department, funds are appropriated for accounts or money that goes out of the company, which is what? Accounts payable. Whenever you are paying something out, you have bought something from a vendor, from a supplier, and so it's funds that is going out, right? Okay, very well. So then we end up buying whatever material that we need to design our end product. Okay, we design our end product, and we have a department that distributes this to, let's say, if it's a car company, to our dealers, if we only do wholesale. So all these dealerships come in and they place orders, right? They place orders. I need 1,000, cars of your S class or of your C class, right? And then it goes over there, right? So once this happens, you notice that you are going to be making profit, because you basically intend to what? Make profit. Nobody goes into business with the intention of making a loss. So there, money will be coming from here. That's why my arrow is pointing down this way. And that funds, again, comes in as a part of the liquidity or liquid assets or revenue. It accounts for revenue for your business, right? So here is what? Money that you receive, accounts receivable. Okay, so the department is responsible for the AP and then the AR, and then at the end of the day, when you have money and you want to be able to do what? Buy more or expand or acquire, then you start talking about acquisitions, and you start talking about mergers, and you start talking about so many other things that come into play. Okay, and the finance department there again will be responsible for your general ledger. Okay, your general ledger. What is general ledger? Anybody? Anybody knows what general ledger is? Because I don't. So you guys will have to tell me what general ledger is before I continue. Anybody? Oh, no accountants here. That's very nice. That's actually, I like this, right? This is your books. This is where everything is basically recorded, right? So there are times where you have assets. There are times you have liabilities, okay? There are times where you have income, and there are times where you have to do what? Expense, okay? So here we have what we call the balance sheet, okay? And we have what we call the P&L, okay? So your P&L is made up of your what? Anybody? What is it? What is P&L? Yeah, we know it's profit and loss. So is that income and expense? Right? So you actually have your income. So you see, we're actually doing some interesting stuff over here today. Your income, your income and your expense, isn't it? Is that your income and your expense? And then what about your assets and your liabilities? And then you have your assets and then your liabilities and owner's equity. Okay? Liabilities. This is all business stuff. So that is basically what your balance sheet and your P&L, basically is. Okay, that's basically what it is over here. Your income and expense, and then also your assets and your liabilities. Now, these are all accounts. So, for example, you can have cash because you have an account in Wells Fargo that has $1.2 million. You have another, account that you account for that has, certain assets that you own that you can quantify, and you also have, liabilities. You also have liabilities. Say for example, we sell these cars, right? But then we sell insurance. But then the insurance that we sell, we charge them, a fee for, let's say, 4 years. So they've paid you all the 4 years, and you have that money sitting down over there somewhere, right? It's not free money because it's not 4 years yet. You've collected all that funds that is there. That needs to be appropriated each and every year, or even warranty, as an example, right? That is not an asset. It's a liability, even though it's funds that you have, isn't it? All right. So these are critical things that we find in real life that we don't even notice. Okay. So again, the financial controller, your CFO over here, that is why they are very, very, very important. And you have a lot of accountants that are working over here in the books and everything. You have to deal with your taxes. You have to deal with your costing. You have to do it. So this is finance and control, where you control your cost and have to deal with acquisitions and have to deal with fixed assets and so many other things. We are not interested in any of that. We are not interested in any of that because that is not what we do. All these is information that is good for us to know, right? Okay, so far we're doing well. We have our HR department. We have our plant, and there will be employees in that plant, and some of the material that is bought will have to go to that plant for them to build that type of vehicles in that plant. So these are various departments that you can find in a company, and there are oftentimes so many different ones. Okay, so many different ones. There is also a department that may be responsible for, inventory. What do you have in stock, and what do you not have in stock? Inventory has something to do with what? Material management, right? So when you have material and the material is here and it is available in inventory, or what you are selling is either available already that we have in stock, or what? We would have to do what? Order it. Okay? So there are so many different departments, and I would want you to, go look for some of these departments, and especially with SAP, we have what we call the warehouse, right? Warehouse management. Okay? Warehouse management. What is warehouse management? What do they do? What do they do? So think of these elements that we have over here as the department you have in your company. I cannot emphasize that enough. Okay? And think about the people that are working in there. These are different areas. So you do different things here. And so if you have your computer and you open your computer and you are dealing with material management, You don't expect to be dealing with customers here, right? Here you are dealing with suppliers. If you are here, you are dealing with what? Customers. So this here that we have, if it comes over here from a sales and distribution standpoint, you are going to be dealing with customers, right? You're dealing with customers. You're dealing with customers. So you guys get it. You understand how all this is interfaced. So each and every department will have their own type of software that they use to help them, you know, in their day-to-day work. In their day-to-day work. If you are under sales and distribution, and you are selling, right? Depending on what industry you are in, if you go to Walmart, they have a POS. It's a point of sale. When you buy, you come to that point where the sale happens, and you hear all the noise going, and you put in your credit card and you swipe, and it goes over here. And you are the customer. The vendors are not there. It's the same thing when you initiate any type of payment to a supplier for your supplier to bring you goods or to bring you material. This is what happens. So all these independent softwares, over time, smart people, 5 smart people from a previously powerful company called IBM. You know IBM. They realized that company upon company upon company were coming, and they were asking IBM to develop something for them that was unique. Like, wait a minute, we are one company, but we have different departments. Why is somebody using Word, the other person is using WordPerfect, somebody else is using TurboTax, and the other person is using another type of, a tax software? Why is this person using this type and the other person is using that type? So they realize that, wait a minute, why don't we start developing an application that, even though they are different, they can talk to each other. They can fit together in one place, so that when I'm in the finance department and I want to be able to have access to information about an employee, I don't need to put in that employee's information again. But because we are all networked and connected, I come over here and I can have that information, and it's not on a piece of paper. Because if it's a piece of paper, then I have to walk to HR department and say, hey, can you give me this employee's number and details? And then they do what? They make a photocopy of that for you, paper, and you bring it to your finance department to do your work. It's duplication of effort. That paper that is over here can be used over here. So system-wide, things are shared. So there is only one place where you enter a particular information, but it is available for every person and every department and every module within the system. So these 5 smart guys realize that, why don't we build something? Why don't we build a system? Why don't we build an application? See, this is the system, right? The whole SAP, this whole thing you're seeing over here is a system. Why don't we build an application? So the system is the whole thing. Application is SD. Application is MM. application is, plant, application is the finance, application is the warehouse management, it's the inventory, it's the HR. These are applications within the system. Why don't we build a system? Let me make it big. Maybe you can see it. Okay? And build an application or applications within the system. And then also build a process or processes around it. So that even though we are dealing with different places within that organization, there is a process that allows the billing due list when you bill or the credit card goes through and somebody buys something over here, right? And you have that money in terms of the revenue, it will automatically by a process be able to alert finance and come in over here as a part of the books without you having to send somebody to sit in a gigi bus or trotro to go all the way to this department that may be in another region, another city, another country, to go and collect money or to go and check how much was made for you to come and report it to the CFO or to the finance department. And when they found this smart idea, they told the old men in the company that, hey guys, we found this very laudable idea. Why don't you guys let us do it? They're like, oh, people forget you. You don't know what you're talking about. These are 5 analysts. So the big, fat, bloated guys in the company did not have that vision, and there was nothing like that at the time. So they started working together. Let us build this. So they came up with the first year, which they called the R1. And then they refined it, and they had the R2. And those were on mainframes, those huge, big computers. You know, back in the days, if you need to have a computer that is as powerful as your laptop today, it is going to be the size of an apartment. I mean, I'm talking about the whole apartment building, not even just your apartment room, the whole building. So these mainframes were like huge. And they started using them, and they started marketing, and different people, different organizations, different companies started buying into the idea. While they were working at night, they were developing this. And then R3 came, where there was the advent of the internet, where you can sit down like the way I'm sitting over here, like the way you are sitting where you are right now. We can all log in into a SAP BW system, the client server. And then it caught fire. Everybody was like, wow, this is good. If I'm into manufacturing, if I'm into retail, they developed a process around different environments or rather different business streams. If you're into retail, this is what you need. If you are into car manufacturing, you're probably going to need an SD, you're going to need inventory, you're going to need warehouse. If you're into insurance and you don't sell cars, right? You have a sales department, all right, but then there will not be a distribution channel, or even if there would be, you are not going to have vendors and suppliers. So you realize that in that industry, certain departments may be irrelevant. You may not need plant because you are not building cars. There is SAP for hospitals. There is SAP for anything, all industries, and they keep building it. Are you getting my point? So these guys All of a sudden, they became so rich. Wow. And those guys were still fat. They were still big. IBM. And they missed that opportunity. They missed that opportunity. Like you have sons that grew up and they presented something to you and you could not even see the importance of it, the relevance of it. And today it is gold. And IBM is one of the major partners of SAP today when they could actually be owning it. You know, IBM also missed out on Coca-Cola. Don't miss out on your opportunity. You always have to be open-minded. When something is presented to you, make sure that you're hearing right. Otherwise, you'll probably end up being poor for a very long time. I remember a friend I talked to about SAP several years ago, and I was telling him, no, you know, we were all hustling. I was actually sleeping in his small apartment. He had what they call efficiency here. You know, the bedroom and the living room is the same. You know, so he was really hustling. He was doing CNA, and that was good. That was you know, I was doing nothing, and I would sleep on his carpet, and I'll have chats with his cockroaches that often came from his kitchen. It was horrible. I'm telling you, right here in Houston. And so one day I left. I was gone for, you know, for about 6 months. He hadn't seen me, so I called him up and I said, look, this is what I think you should do. You can make a lot of money. You can make, you know, you can make a lot of money. This thing is called SAP. You can make 100,000 plus. Look, back in the days, if you mention $100,000, that's money. It's still money. So when I train people and you know, they go out there looking for jobs and then they present them, hey, you know, when you get employment, we'll give you 100,000. They come in, they tell me, oh, the money is small. Like, you guys are so spoiled. Because we talk about big money over here. So they kind of like, no, they didn't give me a good offer. Really? Pharmacists don't even make that. But you know, as soon as I told him that, he banged the phone on me. He hung up on me. It's like, are you coming to defraud me? Where have you been these 6 months? I thought you're a cool dude. Well, what are you talking about? This stuff doesn't exist. You know, people are supposed to be going to school for 7 years and they're supposed to be struggling and hustling. What are you talking about? So, hey, I had to leave the man alone. And one day I drove, you know, past a shop. They were trying to set up a shop, you know, with his then fiancée he married to, and I pulled up in a fresh Mercedes S-Class, and it was white too. And I opened the drawer, and then I went over there, and I said, hey, hi, how are you doing? And he looked at me. He's like, whose car is that? I said, what do you think? What do you think? He's like, please, I want to do this. Some people have to see. Some people have to just see it before they believe it. You know? But then he spent a lot of time wasting that time when he could actually just have done a little bit of research. Don't let opportunity pass you by. The good news is, you know, so he jumped on. The guy that hung up on me was calling me every day. He's been working now for over 6 years now, and he's doing good. See? So that was exactly what happened with these folks. and these guys are multimillionaires right now. Those five IBM analysts, you know. Yeah, I know. Some of these guys, they need to be sending me some paychecks, but they don't. You know, they don't. They don't. Even my sister, she hasn't even given me anything yet. Uh, Meanwhile, she's like one of the best SAP BI gurus in town. I don't know what is wrong with her. If I ever created anything, it's her. That's the only thing I've created. Anyway, so let's move on. This really is how businesses have transformed. This really is how businesses have transformed. So you see, everything we've talked about over here is in the SAP transaction system, where people are buying, people are selling, the information is being stored in this environment. One environment, single point of entry, but depending on which department you are in, you what? You basically have your own places that you go in and you basically work with. It is the same place. It is the same environment. Okay, so we talk about these as departments. Going forward, we are going to call them modules, SAP modules. Okay, SAP modules. So like the way you are becoming SAP BI, BO, BW consultants, there are also SAP consultants that are functional. You know, this is a function of a business, this is a function of a business, this is a function of a business, it's a function of a business. So we just call them functional consultants, and these are all what? Functional modules. Okay? So if they need to implement SAP, you need an expert, a functional guy who understands the process around what? Material management. Anything that involves material management, a specialist who understands how material management department works. Okay, well, your vendors, there has to be some goods receipts, there has to be some billing, you have to set this up this way, you know, the various types of material and the distribution channels and how you're going to collect your money, how you're going to deal with, you know, the ship port when it gets over here, how you're going to deal with payments, how you're going to deal with, you know, lateness, how you're going to do. All of these are processes that somebody who is an expert in that field comes in, also trained like you and I. They come in this particular area and you're able to help them implement this. And then an SD person also implements that, and an inventory, warehouse management, finance, HR, all these various modules. You have SAP consultants that are doing various things. Okay? So you only need a piece of the puzzle. You are either here or there or there or anywhere else. All right? We as BW folks, we just sit down and we're like, you know what? We're looking all of this as information, right? The information goes into some, they all have their places where they put information. This information is here, it's there. We don't care. So we are separate from the functional modules. The BW is a standalone product. It's not a functional module, it's a product, because it's data warehousing in the sense that it is functional module agnostic. It doesn't matter where you want your report from. We can give you reports from sales, we can give you reports from material management, we can give you reports from plant, we can give you reports from inventory, we can give you reports from anywhere. Okay? From anywhere. So if that is the case, then SAP BW is not a functional or function module. It is what? It's a product on its own. So when we are dealing with data, we're going to be dealing with all various modules. And you're going to be working in companies where they may be doing one or the other. Okay, so here you have sales and distribution. You see that? Sales and distribution deals with what? Sales distribution. So if you go into this cube and you look at it, you should see customer, something about customer, isn't it? Look here, they have a customer dimension. And they probably have, you see, they have what? The payer, the ship to party, the sold to party. So if the payer and where you're shipping to that party and who you sold to, if they are all your customers, if it's one person, it can be one person, right? I bought it, you are shipping it to me, and when I paid it, you are shipping it to me, and what? You sold it to me. Okay? Beatrice could have been the payer, and she's shipping it to me, right? And so it was shipped to me, and it was sold to me. Or Beatrice bought it for me, it was sold to, I am the sold to party, Beatrice paid, but then I decide to ship it to Jonathan. Okay, so when you look over here, purchasing is material management actually, because you are doing what? You are purchasing. You are purchasing. All right. So over here, whenever you hear purchasing, purchasing is right here. All right, it's the same thing as material management. Purchasing. Okay. Purchasing. You have profitability analysis, quality management, financial accounting. Financial accounting is what? Accounts receivable, accounts payable. If you look over here in accounts receivable, AR, you're dealing with what? Again, customers. And I said that when you're dealing with what? Payables, where you have to pay money somewhere, you want to evaluate, hey, I want a report that deals with, this is my vendors. I want to see, the total sales. I want to see whatever, right? You see that? If you have this, you can build a report based on it on the vendor. Okay, you can see so many various things. Where is the vendor coming from, the country, and this vendor information. This vendor will have a lot of attributes as well. In this situation, it's not over here, but generally you would have, the vendor address, the vendor whatever, all of it. That may not be here. Remember we talked about navigational attributes. It could all be defined inside of over, here, where you can see all of that. Okay. So you understand here. This is attributes here of a vendor. You see here, the vendor account, vendor address, the location, business partner, address, all of it. Sales turnover here. Look, yeah, a whole bunch, right? You guys are picturing how all these things are done. This is master data. We'll talk about that. Okay, so BW gives you that data warehouse. It is the storage place. It's like a library that doesn't care whether it is, a horror movie or a horror book you're reading, or it's fictional, or it is science, or it's geography. It has it all in one place. And oftentimes it's designed that when you want something, you can easily find it. And then it also helps us to be able to analyze, because this system over here, the ECC, now I talked about the R3, which is they started from R1, R2, R3, and they kept moving up, just like you have, Windows 95, Windows 2000, Windows 2003, and you have Windows, XP, and then you have what? Windows 7, right? So now we have ECC 6.0. And ECC is nothing but the current version of SAP, all right? They created it, they made it look nice, they added a lot more functionality, and now it's called the ECC. And ECC is nothing but what? Enterprise Central Component. Enterprise Central Component. Enterprise Central Components. That is ECC. And so now they started with the version 5.0. Now they have version 6. So it's a ECC 6.0. Okay? ECC 6.0. That is the current version of the SAP R3 or the ECC transaction system currently. That is what you see over here. So if I go inside right now and I log in, which I don't even know if I have a login, let's see. Oh yeah, I do. If you come to System here and you go to Status, all right? This is slow. I will have to fix that. You actually see that it says the version is what? SAP ECC 6.0, right? So this is what the ECC system looks like, and this is where we are going to be working. This is what we're going to be doing today. And this is where we are going to be extracting the information from, because you see, this is a company. So before BW, all information that is done, the sales, the supplies, all of this stuff is going to be somewhere here. Okay? It's going to be somewhere here. So let's take, for example, the type of information that we are going to see in ECC. Okay? Let's look at it. We are going to have two main types of data, isn't it? Remember, we're going to have two main types of data. We're going to have data that the business, when they started, they already know what the data is, so we call this master data, because they already know the products they're going to sell. They already know the parts they are going to order, which is the same thing as your material, right? So this master data here is important. Master data is important because it gives you the information about your business. Okay, and then we have the transaction data. Okay, and then we have the transaction data. So we have master data, we have transaction data. And from what we've done so far, we know when we load master data, where do we store them? Anybody? Where do we store master data? In BW. If you push this master data from ECC into BW, where are you going to store it? What type of info provider? What type of info provider are you going to put it in? It's going to go into your master data object, right, which is your info object characteristic. Right? Very good. So today I'm going to show you different types of master data that they have. For example, we have material master. Material master, we have vendor, there is product, there is customer, etc., etc. There is just a whole lot of it. Okay? Now, what about transaction data? What about transaction data? What about transaction data? What about transaction data? If you are dealing with um, transaction, you are not just dealing with key figures. So don't say amount and stuff like that. Okay. It could be anything. It could be sales, or it could be your purchasing. They are all transaction. So, but then when we are dealing with sales, then we expect that our sales is probably going to be, something to do with, a customer, a quantity, right? Um, a customer, um, an amount, right? A customer, um, you know, revenue and stuff like that. Okay, this is all sales transaction. Okay, this is all sales transaction. That is totally independent of what is over here. A particular customer from here, right, will be making certain purchases for a particular date, a time, and all of that stuff. So if they are using SAP, right, and it's for sales, and they come to, let's say, VA01 as a transaction code, this is where they create their sales orders. You want to buy, what are you buying? It could, maybe it's not wholesale, maybe, you're sitting down and then you call on the phone, hey, I want to make an order. Okay, I want to make an order. So basically what is going to happen is the sales organization, the distribution channel, how are you sending it? How are you distributing it? Is it through the internet? Is it through mail? Is it through, by shipment, whatever, right? And all these things are already predefined when this sales application was being developed for the company. It's direct sales, it's services, factory sales, sold for resale, that, all these have been predefined, and we don't need to know any of this. We don't care about all of that. Okay? So they are able to basically go in and create sales. See, this is the order. You can look for a particular order. Somebody, buys something, and then the system automatically generates an order number. Okay? The system generates an order number, and then you are able to do what? See what that order is. So we don't come over here. We don't do it. All we are interested in is what? Dealing with all of these information and how it's going to come in. These are the screens that they use, but this information sits somewhere. Okay? So the primary place that data sits in ECC is just like our Excel sheets, they sit in tables. Okay? They sit in tables. So all data sit in tables. Tables, 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 tables. You know what a table is because you worked in flat files. With the flat files that you created, it was an Excel sheet, all right, but the data that you loaded was actually a table because it consists of data. Okay? Someone is asking a technical question, and I will answer it because, it's for the benefit of those that are very technical. But basically, yes, SAP is an application that sits on top of a database. All right? So this is what happens. You have this application here called SAP application. Okay? Before you install this SAP application, you need to install a database. A database can be SQL, it can be Oracle or SQL database. They also, Oracle and SQL also, they also have their own ERPs. They also have their own applications. I'm talking about the database, okay? I'm talking about their databases. So basically, when the transaction happens, say somebody buys something, this is where you go, this is where the information is input. It's input here, right? But exactly where it goes and stores that information is in a database. So it goes in, and then when you want to retrieve that information, like I'm retrieving something right now, you see it's reading from the database so that you can see it up over here. All right. So that is how this operates. And the BW also sits on the database. It's also the same thing. It's an application. But then when you're installing it, you have to have an Oracle. So all these tables are here, but they have corresponding tables over here in the database as well. Okay? So like I said, information is in what? Tables, 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 tables. So in sales, we can talk about the sales orders when somebody does an order, right? Eva, are you there? Is she up over here or she's not? Eva, are you there? All right. So you have sales orders, right? You also have, when you are dealing with the deliveries, there are also sales what? Deliveries. Okay? And then you have what it has to do with what? The billing. Okay? So these are all transactions, but as far as the billing is concerned, you are realizing what? Dollar amount, isn't it? As far as the orders are concerned, you are dealing with what? The quantities, isn't it? And as far as the deliveries are concerned, you are tracking to actually see basically what is open order, what is gone, and how it got there. So how are we going to load this data into the system is what we are going to learn, so that when they tell you that, hey, we want you to, create reports based on, let's say, the sales orders or the deliveries or the billing or whatever it is, you are actually able to do that without a sweat. So what is these tables that we are talking about? When we say tables, what are we talking about? Whenever you want to see a table in SAP, okay, you can go to a couple of transactions, okay? You can do SE11 if you have access to it, SE12 if you have access to it, or SE16 if you have access to it. And sometimes there are some SA transactions as well. But let's have these 3 T codes, and let's just go to Google, okay, for the heck of it, and let's go type in SAP tables. I have it, but I want you guys to just, see SAP table relations here. SAP tables, total, SAP tables, standard, SAP table standards. They have a whole host. They have different stuff. I don't even know what to choose. Let me click on the first one and see what we get. Okay, so this guy over here went ahead and then built SAP tables and how they are related. Okay, how they are related. So say, for example, what is the table for customer master? It says the table is called KNA1. Okay, this is standard. They've made it standard so that any company you go to, the SAP build this standard for you to use. So let's go to this so-called table KNA1 and go and check it out. The system is a little bit slow. I'm going to work on that. So we said that we can go to transaction SE 11, 12, or 16, right? Any of it works. So let's go to SE 11. All right. It's a database table. It's a table, okay? So when you come over here, they say, well, KNA1, isn't it? It said type, it said, you know, so you put in the table name, it's KNA1. Hit enter and then do a display. Taking too long. I hope there's nobody else in the system. Somebody is asking, don't I need /n? The only reason why you put a /n is when you are going into another transaction code and you are not on the first page. For example, whenever you're here on the first page, okay, this system is really truly slow. You got to work on it. Once you are here, you don't need a /n to go anywhere, okay? But if you are not here and you are in another page like this and you have to go somewhere else, you always have to put a /n because you're saying, I'm going to a new page. I'm going to a new page and I'm not on the easy access menu. So /n take me to a new page. So here it says general data in customer master. So if you look at it, you see that all this has to do with what? Customer master data. And where you click on contents here, right over here. Don't forget it. Take a look at it very carefully. Here, this one here. This one looks like, you know, some boxes here. This is contents. So click on contents. Over here, we don't create anything. We're only interested in getting our data from here. Okay? Very, very important. So we've learned about the various functional areas or modules. And what we're going to be dealing with right now is, you know, so actually I could have put master data somewhere over here for the company. Right? The company stores their own master data, but you know, we can decide to put it up somewhere over here and color it red because it's not a functional area. It's just, you know, where you store your master data. Okay, so data. Let's say data. It's not an organization, which is why I didn't put it up over there. So let me just put it up over here somewhere. Okay. Oh wow, this is still running. This is extraordinarily slow. Is this how it's always been, Kofi? Now we need to fix this.
Yeah, I think there's something going on.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for it, we you know, if you have access to this, I can save it and then send it to you. But here, these are the various kinds of tables that you have, okay? These are the various kinds of tables. So this, once it comes up, you realize that it looks pretty much like you know, like your data in Excel. But these ones are not transaction data, right? Your company codes, your plans, your branches, your GL accounts, your material master, your vendor, cost center, profit center, etc., etc. Okay. So you have your financial accounting. You see here, you have your accounts payable, you have your general ledger, which is your books, and your accounts receivable, all tied to finance. And the financial accounting, you have your controlling, which has to do with your, your costing, cost. Okay. You have your special purpose ledger, reconciliation, custom ledger, cost center accounting, profit center accounting. These are all accounts related stuff from a transactional standpoint, and these are the tables that you have. BSAD, BSAS, BSEG, BSES, BSIK, BSIS. All these tables have a meaning from a transactional standpoint. Okay? So here they've given you some of them, what BSAD means. And again, this is a too technical. I just want you guys to just know that there are tables, all right? So don't start, letting me lose you over here. We're not doing anything technical. If you have this, it's great. You have the names, just samples for you to have an understanding of it. That's all. That's all I want you to know. Okay? Nothing else. Forget about all that. Okay? So if you're interested in this, you can have it. But yes, these are the tables and how they are actually linked and related in the BW system. When we talk about processes and we talk about the fact that they are all interwoven and they talk to each other, this over here, this gentleman did a good work trying to build the SAP table relations, basically. Okay, you can also do the same thing and give it out there and put your name on there. Right? So we can save it and use it if we need it. We can put it up over here for you and then just say SAP tables. All right. All right. So here, it just seems to be coming up. It's way too. This is not good. This is not gonna. It's not gonna make me finish what I want to treat today. I'm not happy about that. I am not happy about that at all.
Ivan, is it the same for the Houston one as well? Or
Check it. Check it. Let's see
okay.
if Houston is good. Otherwise, I have to power on something else. See if I can use it. Yeah, it's taking way too long. So you guys don't worry. You're gonna get better systems. So we're gonna have to change some of these systems. I didn't even check what I'm using here. What is this? Anti-gig. Okay, that's fine. I'm starting up another system to see if we can use that for the class. Oh, come on. All right, very well. Let's see if this works better.
Even I think Houston is okay.
Houston is fine.
Yeah, it's not as fast, but it's way better than Richmond.
All right, let's try Houston and see. And I think that this also here has something that is blocking it, which is why I'm not able to use this. But that's fine. Um, let's go ahead and use Houston. Is that Houston here? This is Houston. Okay. I don't think I have access to this. All right, I need
Okay, let me send you the detail.
all right. Okay. All right, so I'm going to SC11 again, and I will go pick up KNA1 and do a display, and then I will do content. You see, so this gives me a customer. So if you hit this execute button here, right, you can check the number of entries, but it gives you information like that. You know, the customer, the city, the name 1, name 2, city, postal code. You see, all these over here that you're seeing, they are what? They are all independent fields, all right, but they are what? It's master data. So if we were loading this in using flat files, you, you could actually have, let me mute everybody.
Muted.
You could actually, you know, you click over here and you can actually download it. See, you can download it into a spreadsheet, and you can basically, you know, create your master data and then make these ones info objects and then make them attributes, right? Once you make them attributes, they become attributes of this customer, and you load it. But that is not what we are going to do. If you have a table, you always need, you know that once you have data, a table or a flat file, you need a data source. BW does not understand anything but data sources. Okay. So let's take a look at another table that they have, like table Mara, which is material master. Okay. Let's look at material master. You go back. This time around, let's do SE12. This is SE12, right? SE12, notice that it only gives you display. It doesn't allow you to create anything. You don't usually look at what happens. You see, it gives you change and create. So SE12 takes away this and that. Especially if they don't want to give you, they don't want you to go create anything. They give you SE12. See, display only. Right? So let's use SC12 because we only want to display, right? So let's just click on display. That one works for us as well. Oh, I'm still using KNA one. I wanted us to do Mara this time. Table Mara. Okay. So it says what? General Material Master. You can go to Contents and you can view it. And you can view it. You see? So this is the material and this is what? The attributes of the material or the properties of the material. Okay? All the way up to this place. So if you were to build Material Master and load this, if this were a flat file, I expect that you can do that. Now what we are going to learn is if you have master data in SAP ECC, how do you load it into BW? How do you load it? All right. So in order for us to load data in any case from an external system, okay, loading data from ECC. So in the first scenario here, we are loading master data, right? We're loading master data. And with this master data, we have been given, let's say, scenario is load material master. Load material master. How do you get material master information into BW? We know that it's in a table, but how do we get it over there? We've always known that there is always a need for our vehicle, which is what? Our data source. Without a data source, you can't get data into what? Into BW. Our data source is always what? Our vehicle. So you have table Mara. We know the data is in Mara. We need a data source that will allow us to pull the data into BW. Right? What do? Someone is asking, when do you need to create a table from ECC? Remember what I said over here. You are not a part of this functional developers or designers that will have to what? Give a table or create anything where data is stored. All we are interested in is, do you have data available? And that's all we are interested in. If the data is there, let's pull it. We are only interested in loading data. So there are so many functions in ECC that is not our responsibility. Okay? Tables can be created. You are not going to be creating a table because you're not interested in what? Putting data into ECC. You are interested in pulling data from ECC. So no table creation over here. ABAP, the programmers and developers that design all these cranes and all of that stuff for the business will create tables so that they associate where the particular data will go to. Okay? So that is the simple answer. You don't create tables. We don't create tables because we are BW people. Okay. Now let me tell you something very beautiful that SAP has done. If they made Mara a table, and this table is standard. So for example, you want to go buy furniture. You know, these days you go to Walmart or any of these stores, and they have something in a prepackaged form where they build a table, but then you only have to come home and assemble it. And they sell it to so many different people, and they use it for the same thing. Mara is a table you will find in every client that you go to. Every company you go to, it gives their material information if they use material. So anytime that you install an ECC system, an SAP system, there is a lot of tables that it creates naturally because it is a standard that information will specifically be stored in certain specific locations. If that is the case, then SAP should also be able to create certain data sources for us already associated with this also as a standard. If this is a standard, why do you want me to create my own data source? I'm going to create a data source. But once I've created it, I will also let you know that there are certain data sources that come standard with the system that we don't have to do anything to. We, you know, it gives, you know, it's less sweat. Okay. So let's assume that we don't have this data source. Let's assume we don't have it. How am I going to build a data source so that I can transport my data into BW? When you are not given a data source and the data is in a table and you've been given a table that has no corresponding data source, you create a generic data source. So let me build a table over here for you. And let's do a couple of scenarios. Okay. So here, when given a table, okay, when given a table without data source, no data source, right? In this case, no data source is available in the system, right? In this case, what do you do? What do you do? You have to create a generic data source. What is a generic data source? A generic data source is a data source that you create. There was nothing given to you. So in that case, you go ahead and you create your own. Okay? When you're given no data source. So that is step one. Okay? But when given a table with a data source, you're just going to use that data source, right? So when given a table that has a data source, you just use it. You just use the data source, right? And we have what we call replication. So I will talk about replication when we get there, right? So let's take the first one. You have been given a data source. I mean, you've been given a table. There is no data source. We know that in order for you to pull data into BW, it is mandatory for you to have a data source. You guys all agree with me on that, right? We saw that in our previous exercises. It is mandatory for you to have that. mandatory. If you don't have a data source, it's like you're trying to vanish and appear in America. And you'll be a witch if you do that. Sometimes it's good to be a witch. You use it for that purpose. You need no visas. You know, some people can touch you and then they vanish and they show up somewhere else. Okay, so I'm assuming that I have not been given a data source, but I've only been given a table, and I'm going to be doing the first scenario. Okay, so first scenario, we're saying that we're going to build a generic data. Oh, come on. We're going to build a generic data source using a table. Okay. Creating a generic data source using when given a table. Okay, all right. So the first thing I'm going to do is this is very straightforward. We know what we're doing. We want to push data, and we've been given Mara table, and they said create a generic data source based on Mara. Okay. In real life, Mara has a standard data source, but we want to build one as though it doesn't exist. So this is a scenario. So the step one, what do? We go into transaction RS02. Okay. So let's go to transaction RS02. Transaction RS02. Okay. And then you specify what you want over here. These are all interview questions. Okay. So here you're going to pick what you want. You will select what you want, which is this here, isn't it? We are interested in the master data attribute, so we're going to select that. So we select this here. Okay. We select this master data attribute. All right. We want to build material master like we did the product master. So we can say Z, let's say ETM underscore, let's say material underscore, let's say it's master, right? So either MS or ATTR or whatever it is. Attributes, so master data. Okay. Here we go. Transaction RS02. What am I building? I'm creating a data source. I'm going to do create. This is actually simpler. It's easier than you loading a flat file. Okay. So here it's material, right? So let's just say material master. Put it all in there like that. Control C, Control V, Control V. All right. And this application component, you all know what application components are, right? They're basically the folder. All right. So there are application components also in ECC. So I'm just going to pick up something. I'm going to pick up, let's say, MM. So remind me that I put MM. I put my data source under MM. Okay. Now, what do you want to extract? We are extracting a table. We'll talk about views, but in our case, it's a table. What is the name of the table? Is Mara. The system knows what Mara is. We are done. Hit enter. Okay. Once you've done this, you can go to save. So it's almost like you are placing the table into the vehicle, which is what? Your data source. Okay? This over here just gives you the ability to track what you're creating, so that later on, if you put it in a package, you can transport that package into another system, which we call transports. We'll talk about. But we are not interested in that, so just select local object. Local object means, hey, I'm not interested in moving this data from our ECC system to another ECC system for now. So let's just do local objects. All right. So this is temporary. So it says your package is temporary. Click on save. And here we are. Everything you are seeing over here are all the fields that you're going to be having in your data source. Ha ha ha. Lord help you. So you have to use all these fields to create info objects as attributes in one data source. You see how many they are? A whole host of them. Okay. Now, this selection over here allows me to be able to, at the data source level, I can select, say, material 1 to material 4 or 5. It's almost like a user entry variable. So I'm going to select material number and create it on, and I can decide to not select it and I'll be fine. Okay. I just select this two. I'm going to do a save. Okay. And it brings me back here. Come over here under data sources. Okay. And decide to, you can test this extraction because we've already saved it. The data source has been saved. So here you are testing it. All right. If you want to test it, you can, and I could have done that, or there was no need for me to do that over there. So let's go out. You've created your data source, right? You've created your data source. We'll talk about testing the extractor. Another word for data source, another nice word is extractor. Extractor. So here you go to transaction RSO2, give it a description and input your table, right? Number 2, give description and input what? Your table. Put in the table name. Save. You select save. And then that's it. Really, it's just not very much to it. Again, I don't even know how to put this. You're done. So now let's check. Oh, come on. Let's check the checking our generic data source. Checking our generic data source. Let's check that. Let's check that. So first of all, there has to be somewhere where all data sources that have been either created or that are active in the system reside. So we're saying that all active data sources are in all active data sources. You find it in RSA 6. Okay, transaction. So let's go to RSA 6. RSA 6. And they will all be there, including what we created. Now, what I want you to do is select this SAP here, right over here, and then click on this expand button. Okay, expand. So that expands everything. Okay, it expands everything. So let's say, for example, you're looking for your ZETM, or let's even say MM. If we type in MM, what do we get? There's no MM over here. Let's just say ETM, right? That's how we started it with. So what did we create? We created ZETM material underscore ATTR, isn't it? It was this we created. So right there. If you like, you can say set selection so that at least you know where it came from. This is it came from this folder, this application component before it's actually over here. So that next time when you're looking for it, go to SAP, look for SAP R3 and look for MM. Right? So let's go to RSA6 in ECC. Please don't be creating these things in BW. We are in ECC. It says go to SAP, go to SAP R3, and then go to MM. So when you go under MM here, you should see whatever that we have created under MM. There is also another level of application component under MM, but I think ours, where did we put ours? Did we see it? Did anybody see what I created? We can always look for it, but you see there we go. ZETM underscore material underscore ATTR. Okay? So here, when you double click on it, it will give you basically what we did. Okay? It basically tells you this is everything that we created. All right, right here. Did we call it Z material or it was something else? It was Z material, right? Z material. All right. So how do you test to see if data is coming out? Just like we do the preview. How do we preview the data? We can see the fields, but how do we preview it? Like we used to do in the flat file. You can always highlight it once like this and then go to this place. There was a part that I clicked on selection, and we'll talk about that. You will get it. Data source extraction test. This here is data source extraction test. In order for you to test your data source, you want to preview it, right? To preview your data source. So to preview your data source, there are so many ways you can do that. You can go to RSA3. That's easy. Or when you are in your RSA6, previewing data source. Okay, so let me say or RSA6 extraction test. Test button. All right, it's the same thing. So this is RSA6. How do you know this is RSA6? Sometimes you can come down here and go to transaction, and it says it right there. Especially when you don't know where you are, you can always come down this way, look at transaction, and it will tell you. Or when you check that, it will always show you over here. All right. So I highlight this, and I can go to this place, data source extraction test, and it brings me here. You see the fields that I selected? It allows me to be able to put in a date if I don't want all the data or whatever. This is the reason why these two are here. Okay. Now somebody asked that question. When I was creating it, I did selection. I can come to change data source, and when I do change, I will be able to do what? Do selections over here based on whatever I want as well. Okay, so I did some selections earlier on. That is supposed to be somewhere over here, and you see that's one over there created on. I selected it. So even when you were building, if you don't select anything, later on you can come to RSA6, do a change, and select whatever you want here. because your selection here will allow you in your BW, when you're looking at that data source, we're going to move this data source to BW. Okay. So click on extraction here. I didn't select anything. I want to see whatever. So just click on extraction. All right. This one says that give me 100 records per page. So every page will have 100 records. This is page, the number of pages is 10. And I have 100 records. So if I do extraction, see what happens. All the pages will display. I only have 126 recorded. So when I go to list, you see here, the first page is 100. The second page is 126. So if it was more, I will have more pages here. So if you click on here, you're going to get some sample data. So this is what our data source looks like. This is how the data is going to come, and you can see the data in it. Okay. And then you go to the next page, and then you can see this as well. You see how it looks? If you do the ALV grid, which we saw, we did lists, right? You can do ALV grid and see how it looks. It looks like Excel. And if you want, you can even, export it to your flat file or whatever. So here, we've tested our extractor, right? We've tested it, and we see, okay, well, yeah, there is data coming in. Okay, fine. So what do we do next? So you see this is grayed out, which means that we actually went to RSA 6, we highlighted, and then we did what? Extract data source extraction test. Another way that we could have done this was just simply go to transaction what? RSA 3. And it's the same thing. Look at it. It's the same thing. Put in the data source name and then do extraction. See, it's the same thing. You choose this or that, whatever one you want. And that is basically what we're talking about over here. If you want to preview the data, you can actually preview it over here. Or you go to RSA 6 and then click on this button. So it's very, very straightforward stuff. Okay? So now we assume that Table Mara did not have we realize that Table Mara, we're saying it's on, we're just saying that Table Mara didn't have a data source. We created a data source for it. Someone is asking a question about RSA 3 and RSA 6. RSA 3 is for extraction check. Okay? You can go to transaction RSA 3 and check the data. You can go to RSA 6 and be able to see all active data sources there. But while you are here, instead of typing in RSA 6, while you are over here, there is a shortcut. Let me do this. Okay. Let me do this. Is a shortcut to get to RSA 3. Does it make sense? Okay. All right. Now, another very good question is, we only selected only 2 fields. Why do we have all of this? That selection you did is not selection to give you all these various ones. The selection is to be able to allow you to be able to input like user entry variables in your reports. It allows you to be able to select something to something, okay? So that when you are viewing the data, you're not viewing everything. But if you want to select only few records, then you have to hide those fields. Okay? You can hide those fields. How do you do that? If you come over here and you do the change, the regular change that we did, right here, hide. If you don't want to see certain fields, just hide them. Okay? Hide them. Okay? It's not hidden. That means that all the fields are going to show. Selection is like a user entry variable to allow you to be able to select based on time, company code, material number, whatever. Okay? These things are important when you're trying to view data. You don't want to view 100 million records. If you want to only just test something, you know, you only want just 10 records. So you say, hey, give me from date, you know, February 10th to February 16th. So you can select these things. Okay? That's all. So you have created your generic data source and you are done. Now, how do we view or how do we see it? How do we see it in BW? Your data source resides in your ECC environment. Okay? But you want for it to be able to what? You want to carry that information over to BW. So we want to be able to replicate. The process of replication is the ability to see the structure of that data source that you have in BW so that we can see it in BW and do whatever we want to do there, because that is where we're going to stand to pull the data. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go to BW and I'm going to do this replication so that you can see it. Now remember that the ECC system we're using is the Houston ECC. That means that it is connected to Houston BW. And if you don't have access to Houston BW, oh, come on. Do I have access to this system? There we go. All right, so RSA1, let's go to RSA1. Okay, there is a lot of data, a lot of stuff happening over here. But I'm going to go to this source system here so that you guys see these are all files. We're not interested in files. No more files, no more flat files. We are done. We are express in there. Let's do something else. This SAP, this here should belong to this place. Okay, it's a system bug, that's why it's here. You have to do something to get it here. So if you don't find it here, just go to this. You see S06. This is BW client. You see somebody standing over there. It says this is myself. This is me. This is somebody else from another system. Okay? So right click here and then say display data source tree. Everything you're seeing over here really truly exists in the ECC system. There is a way where we connect BW to ECC. Okay? If I want to do a connection between BW and ECC, I will come here and I'll stand under SAP and I'll right click and say create. And I'm going to say that this over here is my target system. I'm standing over here and I'm going to a target. I'm going to ECC. So ECC, I'm going to put in my ECC system details here. And then there are two people that work. They assign somebody from the ECC side and they assign somebody from the BW side. Think of them as human beings. They are laborers, right? So you say that, okay, who is assigned to do this link so that whenever I want to move data, this person is the one that will work in the background. And whenever I'm at the BW side also, this is the person who is also in charge of the background to make sure that there is connection and there is data loading and back and forth between the systems. You put their users and you put their passwords. And these two systems are created and they are linked. They are linked. Okay? And if you want to know how that linkage is, it's SAP talking to another SAP product. And so it is the process what we call BAPI, Business Application Processing Interface. All right. So once we right click and we go to data source tree, you have everything here. And like I said, as you see it, you can come over here. If this is a new connection, you won't see anything here, right? Because it's new. Now, you can right click here and say what? Replicate data sources. If I do replicate data sources, it's just saying that, hey, go to the ECC system and go and find any data source that has been created that is not here. Replicate it. If I do it at this level. If I do it over here, it means that replicate metadata, replicate all data sources underneath this application component. So let me ask you a question. If I want to only replicate my data source, what application component should I be looking for? Do you remember that? Somebody tell me. Thank you, MM. So instead of coming over here and wasting time, and if I'm your manager and I say replicate one data source and you come and stand here and you replicate everything, I will fire you because you're sitting down, you're not working, and you're making money on the hour, and you're not being, efficient. Because this would take forever. All data sources will be replicated. But he says replicate what you created. So let's go look for MM. We know from there that it was SAP and then what? What was the next one? Anybody? You remember? It was SAP application component and then SAP R3, right? So we got to look for here, SAP R3, right there, the technical name. So I'm going to open this. Do you guys understand this here? Let me go back again. Let me go back again. I don't even know what system I'm in, but that's fine. RSA 6. Okay, so you don't understand. Okay, that's good. So this is what I'm saying. All this over here you are seeing is all metadata. All right? These are the application components like this. They are in this system. They are in the ECC system. When you come to BW and you want to be able to do what? You've already done the connection. It's here. And you don't do this. This is done already. And I'm saying right-click on it and then go to Display Data Source Tree. Okay? Once you do this Display Data Source Tree, you have this. If this is not here, it means that nothing from here has been replicated. But somebody replicated it. That is why you are seeing. Look here. Look at the technical name. You have SAP R3 OID. SAP R3 OID. It's the same thing that has been replicated here. Do you get it? The exact same thing that you have there is here. Just by coming over here and right-clicking to say replicate, either the tree metadata or replicate data sources, it brings you everything here. So there is nothing confusing about this at all. Is there anybody that doesn't understand this? Let me know so I can take it once again. It's a no, like positive or negative. Anybody struggling? If you're struggling, just say struggling so I can take it again. All right. So, Praxidis, this is very simple. We're saying that all this over here is in ECC. Okay? Think of two boxes. One and two. This over here is ECC system. And this over here is BW. Okay? We created a link between the two systems. And this link is to allow data to be able to flow. All right? Now, somewhere in this ECC system, we have stuff that we create in RSA6. It's in RSA6. Okay? The application components that we have is here. Application components and then our data sources are all over here in RSA6. All right? So what I'm saying is because this one here is linked, once you are here in BW, right, under this ECC name, because there is ECC, this ECC is going to show up over here as well. That's what it is. It was created. So you can see it under source system. You see this is S06. All right? This one over here is the ECC system. Okay? This over here is the ECC system. I say right click on it and go to data source tree. So what you are seeing here, even though you are in BW, it's like you are viewing something very nice from your window. You are standing here, this is your window, that is glass, so you are actually able to see because there is a link. You can actually see what is here. All right? You're seeing what is over there. So if you right click and you say replicate, what you're saying is that you're saying that, hey, I want to make use of these. So transfer this over here to this place so that I can see all my application components here and also my data sources over here. So they are over here, all right. But you give them an extension so that you can actually view them and manipulate them and use them as though they exist in BW. You can see them here. And that is what this is. Everything you're seeing here is not in BW because it's a data source. It resides in ECC. This is why exactly the way that it is exactly the way you are seeing over here. So if I stand over here and I actually right click and I create an application component, if I create a node, it's going to show up there. Here, look at it. If I create a node and I say events, okay, create. You see where events is now? You see where events is? If I come over here, it's not here now, but I can do right click, right, under my SAP here, and I can say what? Replicate. Let me do replicate tree metadata. I think tree metadata will just replicate the nodes. So I don't want to replicate everything. But if I'm not right, then we're going to be sitting down here forever because it will be replicating everything, which is what I didn't want to do. But you get my point, right? Is there anybody else? Anybody else that doesn't get it? This is probably not connected well. That is why we're having these IRC issues. I have to fix it. Is there anybody else that doesn't get this concept? All right. So since you get it, and our data stores, Martin, you don't get it. Which part don't you get? Tell me. Which one? Which is confusing? Let me unmute you so you tell me what is confusing so that I can go over it. Shagun, you're unmuted. No?
Oh, okay. Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yes. Yes, sir.
The extraction test button, the RS6.
RSA6, what about it? The extractor test?
Yes.
Okay, what about it? You saying you don't understand something there? I want to know. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir. How to get into the RSA6?
It's a transaction. You just go to transaction RSA6. That is where we are.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let me be sure. So the R3, and then we go down. And then we go down over here. Whenever you replicate anything, so it means that you are transferring something. So you can make certain changes to a data source and you replicate it. And when you do, yes, it has to override the old one if it has the same name. Okay. So over here, I go to R3, and then what next? I look for MM, isn't it? This is MM here. So you see, MM will have a lot of data sources, but mine will not be here because it's not transferred, it's not replicated yet. So I'm going to stand over here, and I'm going to say replicate metadata. And I really hope that, this works out, because that system may be messy, very messy. There we go. So it's an RFC issue, which means that the connection to the two systems are not very well done. So I'm going to do a restore, and I'm going to attempt to reconnect them. This is not a part of the class, so don't worry about it. I want to see if, the two systems are talking well. Sometimes those users may have been locked, and so they're not able to communicate. If that is the case, I'll have to check both users. You see, no connection to this system is possible. So let me make sure that AW remote as a user is not locked. It's not locked, see? And then also I'm going to go into that same system and also make sure that that user AOE remote laborer that works for us is also not locked. It's also not locked. Huh. Let me change their passwords. Okay. EW remote. Okay. Now let me go back to RSA1 and go to my source system and try to, let me do a check. A check, we'll have to sort of see if it's able to connect. If it's not connecting, there's something wrong. But you see, if you haven't bridged or connected the two systems, you will have issues like this. So the system, you always want to make sure that it's done right. You see that it says this is inactive and this also failed, right? So there is a problem. So let me do a restore. Connection of BW to the background user in the source system. Okay. So really, again, the connection of systems and installation of systems are done by another sucker who also wants money, and he goes to learn something called SAP Basis, right? SAP Basis, you know, they're also able to, you know, um, make quite some good money. They are those guys that when you have problems like this, they fix them. So you are not going to be doing this. So I got a problem. Let me go to SM59. Again, this is all, you know, not your job to do. Okay? But I want to see what's happening. I want to see why we're having issues. Oh, S06. This host is server 06. Login. So you see, I'm actually in BW, but this is SAP ECC, right? So the connection is between the two systems, and we use a remote function call. Destination is called RFC. That is what allows us to be able to, you know, interact and all of that. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to do connection test. Okay, seems to be working. Remote log on. Remote log on. Unicode connection test. Anyway, so let me go back to RSA1 again and do a restore. A problem like this, you might be able to fix it very easily, but you know what? You can decide to stay there forever and not do it. I'm going to use Kofi's group to be able to get into it. You can see use, delete. So this is taking me a few minutes to get it done, right? If I'm working, I will take the whole day to fix it. Well, not a connection like this though, because they'll sack you from the job. But it's consulting dollars, so you want to take your time and work. Don't go and be too lazy and say, I said that. You take your time and you do the work. If you finish too fast, you'll be out of that place, especially if you're doing consulting. You're a contractor. So basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to re-establish the connection because there was a problem with it and I think I might have fixed it. So it's going to delete and then it will reconnect and then we'll be fine. All right. So then we'll be able to see how the whole connection between the BW and the ECC is done. So this is actually good. At least you got to see how to troubleshoot, you know, a connection between the two systems when it's not working. You can always right-click and do a check. If there is a problem, it will return an error. You can do a restore, and then you can try to put in the parameters, or you can go to transaction SM59 to try to see if they, sometimes it's a password issue, sometimes it's not well defined, and then so many other things. You've got to know what you're doing, and if you know what you're doing, you can get it done pretty fast. So I'm deleting, and if you look at the very last line, it says that the connection is restored after it has been deleted. So while it is deleting, let's take a recap at what we're doing. We have created a generic data source. We have checked it by previewing it in transaction RSA 3. Okay, that's very important. All active data sources are here. You can check it. You can make changes to your data source in RSA 6. Okay, so then the next is replicating it in what? In BW. Replicating it. So the process of the replication is where we are right now. And you see, once you guys learn how to, not only replicate, but understand, this whole process, it's going to be so simple. It's going to make it so easy to go pick up whatever data source it is, or whatever table it is, and you'll be able to build your generic data sources. Or for the most part, it will be given to you already. Okay. Now, like I said, you will not be creating generic data sources every time. Sometimes they will give you scenarios where it's not already available. So while this is loading, let me go back to RSA 6 and show you around. I'll show you around. So you see, all data are tables, and a group of tables sometimes are linked together. Sometimes you can have more than one table, more than 2 tables, more than 3, 4, 5, 10 tables that you have to link them all up to give you a data source. Okay? So SAP came up with their own data sources specific to various application areas. So SD has its own data sources. Inventory has, warehouse, finance, they all have their own various data sources. Okay? So if you look in, it makes it very simple. You're able to actually see basically what's happening. There is payroll, quality management, real estate management, sales and distribution, SD, and these are the various data sources that you actually see over here. Okay? You have shipping, that deals with allocation, item data, sales document header, the sales document, the schedule line, right? You know what a schedule line is? Sometimes you go and buy something in Best Buy. You buy a refrigerator, you buy a television, and then you buy, let's say, a kitchen cabinet. And for some reason, you've bought it all right. It is in one sale, but then they are not able to deliver it at the same time, right? So they scheduled one to be delivered today. That line goes today. And then you have another schedule that also comes in tomorrow for the rest of your stuff. You bought it at the same time. You paid the same money. The transaction happened at the same time, but the schedule of delivery was divided into 2. So your schedule line will show you the first set of items that came, and then the next set of items that also came. That is an example. So it gives you that level of detail of information. It doesn't just tell you, oh, these are all the sold items, but it also gives another line. Oh, well, let's see how this actually was delivered, right? So here, you have a lot of these, and this is what you're going to be learning over the years. When you go out there and you're implementing an SAP, it's either you're going to be, some of you are going to start doing SD, some of you are going to, go into, let's say, finance, some of you will be doing MM. It's all different. Some of you will only be loading master data. Okay? So if I come over here and then I expand and then I go to, let's say, for example, zero material. There is zero material underscore ATTR. This one nobody created because it starts with a zero. Remember that. Right? So this one over here was actually created by the system. SAP already pre-delivered it, and it's going to be exactly the same thing as what we have, because what we have is material master, and it came from Mara, and this one also came from Mara. So in a perfect world, or in a general regular situation, you are not going to be extracting data, creating generic data source based off Mara, because Mara is already available. It has an extractor. The extractor is what loads data into what it's basically like your data source. So sometimes you say data source, sometimes you can say I work with a lot of extractors. It's actually fun to use that word, extractor, instead of data sources. So this is my material extractor, and basically I created it, an extractor to push the data in there. So you can use it interchangeably. So, okay, there we go. It deleted it, and now it's asking me for, ECC to go and for it to restore it again. So this is not a part of the class. Again, let me say that, because I don't want people to be confused. I know it's hard already. You see that it's this system, now that I've reconnected, it's saying that, well, there is a lot of stuff in ECC. Do you want to replicate as well while you are activating this data source? I mean, this source system. I don't want to replicate. I want to do only activate. Okay, so that we can have the fun to replicate ourselves. Do you want to reactivate all transfer structures and data sources? Let me just say no. Okay, so now I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go to display data source tree. This gives me here, because this has not been replicate metadata, replicate metadata, replicate. All right, so I'm going to come here, go down here, and go to MM. And this time around, when I do replicate, I shouldn't have that error that I had, because I've already fixed it. So look down over here, all the way bottom down to the left, and you see it's reading metadata. But you will see the data sources that it will transfer. Take a look at it. You will see it. You will see our ZETM underscore material underscore ATTR here as well. So this time around, what is it doing? It's reading from the source system and transferring the metadata. You see, there is a difference between data and metadata. Metadata is the physical structure. Data is the actual information that is stored. Okay? You can have a container, it's metadata. And you can have water inside of it. It's the actual data, not metadata. So it's asking me about these, RSDS. Select that, and I will talk about what RSDS is. But just select that. That is what SAP BI 7.0 uses. The 3X is the old format. So it says select this. But there are a whole lot more coming in. So do you want to continue letting me ask you, or you want to let this happen every time? So this here is the same. You see, it says that use RSDS. Okay? Use RSDS, but then continue using RSDS for all the data sources that you are trying to replicate under MM. So now the reading comes, and we are going to be able to see exactly what's happening from that standpoint. So my objective for today is for you to understand that all data resides in tables, and BW doesn't understand anything except for what data sources. So first of all, when you're going to work, make sure you have a data source. If you don't have a data source, you have to have a table. If you have multiple tables, then you have to create a view. You see those data sources? It's loading everything. Look at it. Everything under MM is coming in there. So while this is loading, let's go back to the RSA 6 that I talked to you guys about. This is where you see all your active data sources. So what if there is a data source that was delivered by the system, but it's not active yet? If it's not active, it's not here. RSA 6 is where all your active data sources reside. SAP delivered a data source. A standard means that it's delivered, right? Standard is delivered. But then it's not active. So it's not here. So how do we bring it here? How do we know where it is? All your delivered SAP data sources that you don't create but comes with a system comes from RSA 5. Okay? So RSA 5 will have everything RSA 6 has plus what is not active. So if you don't find it in RSA 6, come over here, you find it here. And once you find it over here, you activate it. You highlight it, you activate it. Once you activate it, it goes to RSA 6. So RSA 5 is where you have the D version, the delivered version. You see, when you go to pick up that table you bought in Sam's Club, when you bring it to the house, it is in its delivered form. That was how it was delivered to you. It was all broken into pieces. You have to put screws in and set it up. It's been built. It's a table, all right, but you can't just go buy it and then just start using it. You have to what? Assemble it. All right? So the process of the assembling, once you assemble it, it becomes active. You can use it. But it also has its what? Delivered form. It's in the form in which you actually bought it. So remember that data sources, info objects, all come in what? Delivered versions, or what? The active version. It has to be active. So it's successful. Successful. It says replication completed. So let's look over here and see if we can find our material or whatever. If you find it, let me know. I think it's a Z, right? So, and another way we can find it is to go all the way, is to do this. We can do this. ZETM and then asterisk. And it will look it up for us. So this is it. Material master, this is it right there. So here, it's sort of grayed out, right? And here you see that the equal to, it says what? It's in what? Modified M version. And the M version is different from the active version. What is M version? M version is modified. All right? So I talked about the delivered version and the active version. A modified version is when it's not active, it's inactive, or when you want to make changes to it and it's in that state. Modified version is the same as a revised version. So you just right click on it and it says modified version. We don't do anything. We don't do anything here at all. All this, we do nothing here. Just go to change mode and activate it, and you're good. So once you replicate, you activate. Okay? So here we can say for is what? Replicate and what? Activate in BW. And your data source is active now and ready. This data source is ready. What do? You can right click on it and create an info package. And you guys know how to do this. From here going, I expect, if I say create your own info object and push this data in it, I'm sure you can do that. If you can't do that, we have a problem. So you see, the selection that I did in ECC also gives me this ability here, this data selection. You see, it allows me to be able to input stuff for material number and create it on date, because those were the two selections that I checked, and this was what I had in mind when I checked it. All right. Now we all know that when you use an info package, the data goes where? By default, it goes to what? PSA. All right. So just go and do it. Do a start. And the data was requested, meaning that you've pushed in data, and then you can click on the monitor to see if everything is loaded successfully. So you're going to continue refreshing. This one is not Excel where it takes forever. Aren't you happy you're seeing 126? Because that was what we actually saw in our ECC, right? There, done deal. Then we can go to the PSA and then we can view it. And it's in the PSA, so it's all ready to go to the target. You can build a target and then push all this into it, and you are done. This is how to load master data. So my objective today is to show you how to push data into BW up to the PSA level, because going up, we've already learned that. We're going to do more of that, okay? But we are loading data from ECC. We've done master data, generic data source, and we've loaded it. Okay, now let us take the second scenario, which is you have been given a table that has a data source. It means that use that data source, right? When given a data source, you know, here you're given a data source. You're not given a table. You're given a data source. So when you give it a data source, it's very simple. That is step 2. That's even easier. So when they give you a data source, you go to transaction what? RSA6. Make sure that your data source is there. For example, so let's do the scenario. So creating a generic data source when given a table, right? Let me delete this here. So our other scenario is when you were given what? A standard data source. It's a data source already. You also, when given a standard, when we say standard, we're just saying that, you know, you didn't create it. It came by itself. A standard data source. Okay. Now in this scenario, we are going to load 0 material underscore ATTR. Okay. 0 material underscore ATTR. So that is our scenario. Our scenario is find, replicate, and load to the PSA of 0 material underscore ATTR. All right. So here in this scenario, your step 1 should be go to transaction what RSA 6, right? Find the to find 0 material underscore ATTR. What is step 2? Anybody can tell me what step 2 is? If you find it, there is nothing else for you to do. There is there already. So what do? What's the next step? Anybody? 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 What is this? What is the second step? What do we do? You don't need selection. You don't need anything. It's there. The system. Look, this has been given to you. You're not creating anything for you to select anything. That's it. Just replicate in BW. Unless you want to do changes to it, replicate in BW. That's all. Right? Replicate in BW. So come over here, select expand, find 0 material underscore ATTR. This here. Right? It's right here. So if we want to find where exactly or which application component is going to be under, especially because of BW, you can just do set selection, okay? So that we know SAP R3 LO IO and then 0 material. So we have to come over here LOIO so that we can replicate it over there. So we go to BW, okay? Go to source system, right click, do data source tree, and then over here there are so many data sources. So if you don't find it, you can use this trick. SAP R3. This is SAP R3. You scroll down. What is the next? It's LO, right? This is LO. So you go down to LO, and then it says LO-IO. This one here is LO-IO. You go down there, and it has to be somewhere here. So you can right click here and say replicate metadata. You've got to mature with me as we go. You have to be creative. You have to work hard. You have to try to, follow. Don't write notes and so that after the class you go and sit down and be studying. Okay? We're taking it slow because we want you to be able to really start applying for positions once you're done. Again, you're going to do the same thing here. It's seeing a couple of data sources somebody has created again, So just do it for the other 4 and then say continue. Okay, so it's transferring, it says writing the delivered version. Did you see that? It says write the version. It's writing the delivered version. So now that it's transferred, we can look for 0 material. And sometimes it may already have been replicated. Sometimes, the company replicates everything. This is TXT. So we have to look for find next. Find next until you find what we are looking for, right? It's not a technical name, so let's keep going. There we go. This is the technical name. This is what we want. And it looks like it's even already, active, right? But it says not executable. So we're just going to go ahead and just reactivate it so that everything here becomes the way we want it. All right, so now it's executable and everything is good over there. Okay, and somebody might have created a PSA on it already, but you can right click and then do what? Create an info package. Okay, we will Control V, and you have material number, because here this was selected. This is not what we created, right? So it's they selected only one. We selected two, and then you can just do a start. So it says data was requested. So you actually do realize that data sources, as I said, come in delivered form, and in order for you to use them in ECC, they will have to be in active form. Okay? When you need to transfer them into BW so that you can stand there, see, think of the data source as a stick that extends from one system to the other, here, like this. You have the ECC, and for this very same stick you have, you sort of extend it so that you can view it from here. Let me use something else to make this analogy. Right? So this is your data source. Your data source came from ECC. Right? Your data source came from ECC. But you want to be able to stand over here and pull the data. So if they don't make it available over here, they don't make this end available here in BW for you, there is no way you're going to be able to stand on anything, to use. You see? So that is the reason why when you replicate, you are basically just extending it or allowing it to be shown, allowing the same data source to be shown in BW. So, but once it gets into BW, for BW to be able to recognize it, you have to activate it over there as well. It's coming into a new system. It needs to be active. It's over here. It wasn't being used. You want to use it, you've got to make it active. You make it active, BW recognizes it, that it's in an active mode that needs to be used. All right? So that's basically what it is. So this is data was requested. We can go in over here, and here you go, 126. So that tells you it comes from the same place. All right? So you replicate, and then you what? You load data to what? Into the PSA. Then from there, you create your transformation and your mapping and your DTP, and everything is good. Okay, that is scenario 2. Any questions on that? No questions. So that means it's very clear. Okay. So when you're given a table, you create a generic data source. when you're given that generic, you're given a standard data source, okay? You're given a standard data source, use the data source. You can replicate if it's not been replicated already, and then you use it as is, okay? So Jonas is asking that in real life, when the company is using any table to input data, should the data source, if available, already be activated? Your data sources should be activated. Why not? If it's activated, there is nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, what happens is the first step of a business when they implement is to come over here and then do mass activation of all their data sources so that they can move them from transaction RSA 5 to RSA 6. Okay? You can activate everything so that you have everything already activated in RSA 6. And you can also do what? Replicate everything in BW except for the new generic data sources you're going to be creating and the enhanced ones. Because sometimes you can add certain fields to an already existing data source. Okay? Because you have to do those type of things and you have to replicate again so that you transfer the changes. But for a start, yes. So I expect that when you go to any company, replication and activation of all these standard data sources should be there already, unless you are starting from scratch with them. And I've had a few people do that. If it's a new company, new to BW, or new to SAP, or they have a new system they are testing. All right, but I have to teach you this thing so that you can understand. When you go there, you don't find it, you know what to do. So far we're good, right? No confusion, nothing. No worries. You get the concept. You get the concept. All right. So what about when you're given two or more tables? What do you do with that? You're given two or more tables. What do? You have to create a view, then your generic data source. So we already know how to create a generic data source, right? But then we have to learn how to create this view, especially when you're given two or more tables. So we're going to take, this was our scenario 2. When given a standard data source, let's take scenario 3 where we have been given 2 tables. What tables can we use for this assignment? Anybody? They've given you 2 tables. We're going to do, let's say, let me look for some tables over here for us to use. We can do, let's say, MARC and then SE11, let's see, what is a table MARA and then MARC. MARC is another table. It's a plant data for material. Plant data for material. So it has material number as well, right? So this has to do with plant data. So say, for example, all our materials, right, are stored somewhere. But then this is also material specifically for plant, right? So that means that there will be plant information that we may need to add. So we want to combine all material data and then plant-related material data. So we want to put the two together. Okay, so the scenario is very simple. Let me give you the scenario and then put the tables up there and then see how we are going to get that done. Scenario 3, when given 2 or more tables. So when given 2 or more tables, create a view, right, with MARC and MARA to build your generic data source, right? I'm saying generic data source because that data source doesn't exist, and we have to basically, do that. Okay. So again, this is our scenario that we are going to do. So first of all, we have this table here. This table is Mara. Okay. We have another table over here. This table is MARC. Okay. We need to be able to create a table, a view. We need to create this view, right? Which implies Mara plus what? MARC. You guys get it? So it means that there are going to be some fields over here in Mara and some fields over here in Mark that we have to combine all of this to be able to create this view, and we're going to use this view to build our data source. Does it make sense? So since this view is what we are interested in, I'm going to lift that up a little bit this way. I'm going to make this up a little bit, make this down up a little bit, so that we can understand the view we are going to be using to build our generic data source. So in our Mara table, we have material. This is our MARC. You see that there is material number over there. It's material number, right? There is plant, and then there is data division, MARC. So MARC has, this is a technical name, it has this Control C, it has this which is a plant, isn't it? And then it has division here. So just so that you can appreciate what it has, I'm just going to say it has material number for the non-technical guys. Plant. It says plant, right? And then data division. Plant and then what? Data division. We are interested in bringing these from table MARC that it may not be in table MARA. I want to see if I can find something else over here. It's a plant-specific material status, MMSTA. So let me add that also. MMSTA. Oh, sorry. MMSTA is what? Plant-specific material status, right? Okay, very well. So we have this. This is what we want. We want to have this information. Plant division and plant-specific material status may necessarily not be in MARA. So let's go and look at MARA and pick up some items in MARA as well and see if we are right. You see, so MARA obviously has material number, right? Because it has to be there. So material is there. Let's pick up a few things over here from a material standpoint that we're going to use. Say, for example, material type, MTART. That's material type, isn't it? So here we're going to build, we have material type. Do they have material group? You see material group anywhere? MATKL. Okay? MAT, okay, material group. So over here we have, let's say, MATKL, isn't it? MATKL. What else? What else do you guys want to see? Let's say there used to be a certain type of numbers, right, before the new material numbers came. So you want to pull the old material number, BISMT. Now, all these things are going to be given to you. If they are looking for information and they want you to do whatever, the generic data source that you are actually going to build, there are certain fields that it ought to have. We're going to talk about how projects start, how you meet with the users, how they tell you the kind of information that they need in their reports, so that when it is sales related, you know where to go. If it's material that you're dealing with or purchasing and you're dealing with material, all that information, you actually get it and you ask them, okay, where is it coming from? What is this? You write it down. So we actually have requirements gathering session where you actually write all of this, and you as a designer understand that the business will be like, well, you know, we need this information and it's here and it's here. Or you ask them, okay, where is it at? Oh, yeah, you can find it in Mara. Okay, fine. But you are not going to find, you know, plant information in Mara. Where is it at? Oh, it's somewhere else, right? So then you can say, well, you know what? Let me think about joining these two tables and create a view so I can use that view for that specific data source. Okay? So don't worry too much about how do you know what to select. These things are business driven. You know, if I don't know what, if I'm a doctor, I don't know what to prescribe to you until you tell me what is wrong with you. You see? If, you know, you are sick of some illness, I'm not going to prescribe another type of medication for you. I might end up killing you. So you have to tell me what your requirements are, what you need, what your wants are for me to be able to come up to give you what. So these are the kind of questions that are relevant for you to ask. As a consultant, you need to be able to speak out and open your mouth and talk. All right. So this is it's for the purposes of this class. We picked up 1, 2, 3, and then we picked up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's it. Okay. So I'm not picking up anything else. BISMT. So we are currently selecting what we want to use. Let's say that I am the client, and I tell you that I want these as fields in my data source. Okay? Let's say that I am giving you this, use this and that. If I give you an assignment, I'll tell you what the fields to use. If you are working, they have to tell you what they want so that you have these information, then you can build. So far, you've done nothing. You guys have done nothing so far. You're just sitting down waiting for me to give you what my requirement is. Okay? You realize that there is material number here, and you realize that there is material number here. That's the first thing that you want to establish. There is a material number and there is a material number. Very, very critical. Okay? That is the key. There has to be something that is common to be able to uniquely identify. If you want to establish a relationship between two things, right? In order for you to get a plant over here, this plant will have to belong to a material. This plant-specific material status will have to have a corresponding material. Okay? So you have material here and you have material over here, and so that's good. All right? So we are done. Now let's get to work. How do we actually build this stuff? How do we build it? So let me pull this down a little bit. All right, I'll bring it over here. Okay. So the step one that you're going to do, you guys remember that when we went to transaction SE11, it allowed us a way to be able to do it, to create a view. Okay? So you're going to give it the name of your view. Okay? So let's go do it. Let's go do it. All right, so select view here. You see this is view. You don't need this. And then you're gonna say this is VET. Oh yeah. So BISMT, I think it was an old material number, right? BISMT, I think we called it its old material number. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. So then we have that as well. That's fine. So this is what we are going to be selecting. So we are going to create ZETM, which is for me, underscore, you know what, let's just say MARA underscore MARC, and then it's master data, right? So ATT. Oh, I don't have whatever anymore. ZETM underscore. Okay, let's do this. ZMARA underscore mark underscore ATTR. How about that? I hope you can remember this view. This is a view. This is no, it's a view. It's not a data source. So let's take out the ATTR. Okay. So Z underscore Mara underscore mark. Click on create. It's a database view. So click on copy. All right. Okay. What are the tables that we are interested in? List them over here. We are interested in MARA. That's where the data is coming from. and MARC. That's where the data is coming from. Okay? We are done, isn't it? We're done here, right? Tables, we're good. If you look over here, you see that these are the tables. This is a table, that is a table. So just put in those tables that we are interested in, all right? Now, like I said earlier on, when you look at this scenario, you see that this here is common and this here is also common. Material number is here, material number is here. And that is what we are going to be using as the basis, you know, for our selection. Okay? So we are going to have to say that this is equal to that. Okay? Let this here be equal to the same thing. So there is a table MARA, which is our table here. Also has MATNR, okay? And the second table that we are joining it with is MARC, and it also has the same table, the same field, MATNR, MATNR. So we join the table, okay? So over here, we create a view. We select our tables, okay? Define the joint condition, okay? Define the joint condition. We've done all of that. We've defined the joint condition. So far, so good, isn't it? And then come to the third tab over here. Oh, sorry, here, let's just give it a description. Material plant data. Material dash plant data, isn't it? It's a data, all right? So click on this view fields here. All right, this view fields here. Here we are going to put in what we want. We don't have time to put in the table and go all the way. It's just too much. So the tables that you defined over here, because you defined them here, when you click on table fields, this one here will give you two tables because you defined them on the other side. So let's select Mara first. All right, what do we want to be selecting from Mara? So right now, what we are looking for is the fields we want here. So tell me the fields we want here. What's the first one? In the view, what are the fields that we want? MATNR, okay. Next. Anybody else? MTART, MATKL, BISMT, WERKS _D, and then EMARC, and then MMSAT. This is what we need, right? So you notice that I only put one material number because it only makes sense. Why on earth would I put two over here, right? Why on earth would I put two? Just because there are two here doesn't mean I should put two there, because we only want to see material and its corresponding what? Fields. Okay? So let's get to work. So here we selected, let our MATNR come from here. Okay, what else do we need here? We need MTAT, MATKL. Where is it? We have to select them, right? We have to look for them. I went past it. It's up. Okay. All right. Okay. So MATKL is here. BISMT is here, isn't it? So we have MTAT left, isn't it? We have MTAT over there, MTAT. There we go. So far we have all four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 over here. Okay. They are paying you on the time. Why do you want to be fast? You're asking if there is any faster way of doing it. There's no other way. All right, so click on copy. So you see, it automatically populated this way. Now, I mean, we didn't have to go and click here. If you wanted, you're asking if there is anything faster. There is something, you know, slower than that. And that's you having to put in the fields in the table. So now we're going to pick up the next one, MARC. We already have material number, and we've already created a joint condition. So we don't need that, right? So we go to this here, and then what else? What else do we have? EMARC and MMSAT. If you find it, let me know. I don't think that we went that far to look for it. All right, well, we can find it. There's always, we know it's marked, so we have to do MARC, MARC, how many MARCs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, and then one last one, MARC. Those are the tables, right? All right, what's the field? What are the fields? The first one is works. This next one is, oh, it's actually 1, 2, 3, is 3. EMARC and MMSAT. EMARC, is that correct? EMARC. And MMSAT. MMSAT. Let's take this away and hit enter. Okay, so EMARC is not finding it here, is it? Actually, we looked for the field, so we put EMARC here. Oops, what about the field here? What about the field? Control C, Control V. All right, so there we go. So these are the actual fields, okay? Now the view, if you want to change this, you can change it yourself. I can put anything over here that I want. You see, it took it. If you want, so you are selecting these, but then at the end you want to see something else in your data source, you can give it whatever name you want. But these are the true fields here. This one here, you have to put it in there. It doesn't look like it's even finding it, is it? It's not finding it. Because I don't see the names coming up here. So let's go back again and be sure that we picked up the right. Let's go back to MARC. M-A-R-C, sorry, C11, let's pick up the table, M-A-R-C. Oh, that is an include. That is an include. Okay, we're gonna pick up something else. Let's pick up something else. So let's pick up the purchasing group, okay? That's AUSME. AUSME is what? Purchasing. The purchasing group. And what about the MM set? Where is that? I thought we found something else called MM. Oh, it's MMSTA. See, no wonder we're not finding these things. It's MMSTA. Guys, you're my eyes and my ears. Is it AUSME? It's AUSME, isn't it? The one that we picked up. AUSME. Alright, so AUSME. There we go. Alright, okay, very good. So let's use AUSME and MMSTA. So here is MMSTA. See that it automatically came over there, right? What is this? MMSTA. Okay, so then you see that once it automatically gives you these because it's in the system. If you don't get them here, it means you didn't type it right. But you see, I could still oh, I did something wrong. I typed this twice. So it's AUSME. Sorry. AUSME. There we go. Okay. And it's the unit. It's AUSME is unit. I need to change that. I don't want to have any issues with. Is a character. Okay, let's go with DISMM. DISMM. Let's do DISMM. DISMM. Okay. I'm still going to put that over here as my DISMM. Okay. So there we go. So we basically have our selections. See how tedious that was for me to try to be putting it here. If I had selected this table like that and I had done the writing over here easily, I would have been able to easily find it. I couldn't find it because I made some mistakes. So a lot of the times the problem is between the chair and then the computer. You know, you beat yourself to death, but you are the problem. So we all done. We're really all done. Can you do a check here to see if your definitions are okay? It says the saved version of the object is checked. Save object, you can say yes. Let me cancel it first. Come up over here. You can save it, or we can just go ahead and just do an activate. Again, local object is okay for now. Okay? Do a save, and then here, do continue. Okay, so this is pretty much very straightforward. It's giving you all these warnings because it says that, you know, there was another key, MANDT, and we didn't link that up. Okay, but it's basically activated. It's activated. So now that we have a view, oh, come on. What did I do? Now that we have this view, you know, we can always go and take a look at the view, right? You can go to content, and then you can see the data in the view. Number of entries is 143. That means there is data in it. And there we go. It populates everything that you want. The material number is not really, here's some of it. Okay? So once you have this way, the rest of it is history. Just go to RS02. You already know it. I don't have to do it for you. Select master data. You know what you're building. Underscore ATTR if it's for master data, right? Do a create. You know, you can say material plant data. Material plant data. Here you can put it again under MM if you want to. Okay. This is a view. So now you're going to put your view over there. What is the name of it? Z underscore MARA underscore MARC, isn't it? Then you continue. So really, you are done. Yeah, that's correct. So you're done. So do a save. And I know somebody asked me this question about the selection. If it's a local object, just do a save whenever that counts. Do local object. And here, it brings you here. So if you want to do any selection, that's up to you. I'm going to check material. Okay? It's up to you. And then I'm going to do a save here. It's done. My data source has been generated based off what? A view. All right? What do you want to do? You want to go to RSA 6 and RSA 3 and check it or whatever? It's up to you. But I am going to BW, and I know it's under MM. There is MM up there somewhere, isn't it? This is MM. And I'm going to replicate my metadata from there. And once I replicate, since we've replicated this, there hasn't been any other generic data source that has been created except this one. So I'm expecting that this is the only generic data source that will pop up. Okay? So once this is this replicates and is done, we have done the third scenario, and we'll continue next week or on Tuesday as far as this is concerned, so that we can wrap it up. So see, data sources are fun, isn't it? You see, like I said, this is the only thing that we had created since the last replication. So it's telling you that this does not exist in BW system. How do you want to create the object in BW? So this it's transferring over, and then you activate it, and it's your data source. RSDS, and then continue. Okay? Once it gets over there, we are going to activate it. We're going to create an info package, and we'll push the data into the PSA. Today, I'm not pushing any data into any targets because you guys know how to do that. If you want to create a target for this, actually that will be an assignment for you because the fields here are not as many as the MARA table. So this is an assignment. Create a master data object, then assign the attributes, and load this data. Okay? So it's saving a whole host of it again, but it will ultimately give us this data source that we're looking for, and we'll be good. So there we go. It's done. So we need to look for it, isn't it? Two ways. We can find it, we can look for it, or we can do a search. I'm doing a search by description, right? So I did a search by description, and here we go. Double click on it, and it's in modified state. Do a change here, and then activate it. So you see here, today we've been between source system and data sources. So now it's all done. All right, right click, create your info package, push your data, and your assignment will be to create a master data object and push this into it. See, I selected material number only, right? And this is what I have. So you see, I didn't have to go to RSA 3, I didn't have to go to RSA 6 because I created it and there is nothing else for me to check there. I can always go there if I want to. 143 records. Here, it's all green. I come over here, I load it. There we go, we got our data. So create material and make these ones attributes of the material, okay? And push the data in there. Create your own generic data source based on the two assignments, based on the two scenarios we've done, and build this, but then push it all the way to the target. Push it all the way to the target. And since we created Mara, your other assignments will be, so here, let me start writing them down for you. Assignments. So you're going to create a generic data source based off Mara. Okay? Okay. Load this to the target. Okay? Load to target. Using zero material info object as a template. You should be able to do this very simply, right? I'm saying don't go create everything all from scratch. You use this as a template. So when you say create info object and then under template put in zero material, and then you can define your own info provider, or you can define your own, Z material, whatever, and then you can use the Mara data source that you've created, right? And then you can push data into that. That is assignment 1. Assignment 2 will be you're using Mara and MARC, create a generic, you guys are no longer kids for me to say create a view and a generic data source. You know that I've given you 2 tables. In order for you to create a generic data source, you need a view, right? So create a generic data source and create a target info provider. Create a target info provider and load data. Okay, that is your assignment. I thought we did 3 scenarios. As for the process of replicating standard data sources, those are like very simple, right? So standard data sources, using standard data sources, product, zero material, zero employee, push data into, I can give you that as well, right? Using zero material underscore ATTR. Zero customer underscore ATTR. Zero vendor. Zero vendor underscore ATTR. Using these data sources, right? You create info providers using their respective templates. If you don't understand anything, let me know. Using their respective templates, create info providers using their respective templates, and push data into them. Put. So it means that when I say template, zero material underscore ATTR is a data source that has its own target zero material. Zero customer ATTR has an info object called zero customer. So just copy these, right? You can just you can basically copy them. You can basically copy them. Oh, come on. What's happening? Okay. These things take so long. All right, so you have info objects. Say, for example, I have zero vendor. That counts, you know, the system has it already. Well, it's not there, is it? Or it's not? If it's not there, okay, zero vendor is not there. How about zero customer? Let's go to info providers, zero customer. So this is zero customer, right? I'm saying use this as a template. You can right click on it and then do a copy. Where is a copy? You can do a copy on here. Then you can copy it this way, right? And then you can come to info object, and then under your, where is somebody change this? No. Oh, this is another system, isn't it? It's another system. All right, I'm using the other system. Why am I in this system? Because I've been using it, right? Oh, goodness. Yeah, something wrong with my head right now. All right, okay, so I can just come over here and let me just create it under someone else's, okay? Let me create this. I can create this info object here, and the template is what? Zero customer, right? And I can say ZET CUST, and then I can say, customer. Okay, so it just basically just allows me to create it exactly as is, and I don't do anything over here but to do what? Activate it. All right, so that if my zero customer data source is available, I just use that to connect to my target. And you guys can use one data source and connect it to multiple targets. So it's okay if you do it that way. All right. So that brings me to the end of the class. We've been able to at least have the scenarios that I wanted. 1, 2, 3. When you're given a table, when you're given a standard data source, or when you're given 2 or more tables, how you should build a view and how you should use them in the creation of your generic data sources. All right. The next time we're going to talk about how to enhance when given a data source, and the data source is not enough, but then they give you a table. What are you going to do about this scenario? Okay, and we're going to talk about enhancements. All right, and then the fifth is we're going to talk about logistics extraction, LO cockpit. Okay, so these are the topics that we'll be treating on Tuesday or on Saturday when we meet up. Any questions? Any questions so far? So this is this our fourth section? This is session 4, right?
This is 5.
This is 5?
Yeah.
The very first one that we met, it wasn't really, I'm counting it from when we started the BEX.
Yes.
So that was
Tuesday was 4.
Oh yeah. That's true. That is true. That is true. This is 5. All right. So we save this here, and I better do this right now before I get up. Otherwise, I'll forget it. I know I'll be getting a lot of calls. So material is loaded up